buddies, hello and welcome to a Bowler's World Blast from the Past. Many apologies for it being a day late. Unfortunately, Monday was beset with problems. Boiler started leaking, so I had to wait for a plumber. Anyway, you don't want to know about my domestic nightmares. I've got round to it, so it's a day late, but never mind. We've got here at last, and thank you so much for joining me. Remember guys, if you enjoy this video, please hit the like button, and if you're not already a Bowls buddy and a member of this wonderful community, please hit the subscribe button. It's absolutely free of charge, and don't forget, hit that notification bell for notifications of new content on this channel. Excellent, got that out the way. So after a lot of humming and hawing and mulling and all of another words for thinking, I decided, I had a choice. I could have done the last ever Bowler's World, which was December 2009, but that was a bit depressing. I also looked at, I think it was 98. Was it 98? Yes, 98. And I thought no, because there's a lot of me in it and you don't hear about me. So I've gone almost right back to the start of Bowler's World. It started in 1977. I've gone for 1978, December 1978. It's issue number 15, because they didn't bother with January, February and March back in those days, because there was nothing happening in the bowling world by all accounts. This was the winter edition. And on the front page you've got the two big champions, Arthur Murray holding the Waterloo Trophy and Noel Burrows with the John Player Champions Trophy. And I'll talk a little bit more about those in a moment. But just down at the bottom it says Tranmere takes off in style. And the new indoor season at Tranmere Rovers Sports Centre has started with the preliminary rounds of the Heckworth Tailoring Team Championship. And it goes on to say that there's 88 teams playing there during the week and over 1,000 bowlers using the indoor facility at Tranmere. Now, many years ago, I went to Tranmere to watch Burnley and wanted to have a look at this place, but it had closed down by then, long gone. And up until a few years ago, that was the only indoor crown green that had ever sort of been built in the country, until they decided to try one in Huddersfield under a dome, and which was excellent. I mean, it was really good. I used to play at Huddersfield, really enjoyed it. And talking to people who played at Tranmere back in the day, they tell me exactly the same. It was really good fun, but again, people weren't just prepared to pay the money involved to be members and green fees and all the rest of it, and just died away through lack of support. And I think when Tranmere decided to redevelop their stadium, unfortunately the indoor facility went with it, which was a big shame. I'm told they used to travel from all over to get to Tranmere, which is not the easiest place in the world to get to, by the way, especially if you're coming from the north. But I can only imagine what it was like. They said that they used to run Saturday night flyers, 32 players, and the entries filled in 10 minutes. The sheet went up one on a Saturday night and it was full for the next week, so that was incredible. Right, going on to the next page, there's a big advert of from John Player with a picture of Noel and his cup and two pretty ladies and some other chap. Don't know who it is. Must have been something to do with John Player. And then page 3, a little bit of a write-up about how Noel won and his path to the final results. He won £1,300, which, you know, seems okay. And then you look at how much that was worth in today's money, and it was just over £8,000, which, you know, it's half a year's wage, I guess, back then. Which was, you know, an incredible amount of money. And John Player, obviously we can't have sponsorship from cigarette manufacturers, tobacco companies. They put a lot of money in. He stormed to victory in the £3,000 John Player Champions Trophy at the Waterloo Hotel, Blackpool. And his success in this tournament put a prize of £1,300 in his pocket and his name even more indelibly in the history books of the Crown Green game. He was 34 when he won that in 1978, and what is it, 42 years later he's still competing at a really high standard on the panel, still winning things. It doesn't seem that long ago he was winning the All England at Fleetwood. The only regret, put my teeth in, the only regret I have, said the Red Lion landlord who has his own bowling green in the back garden, is that I never won the Talbot Handicap at Blackpool before it finished, although I have been runner-up in it. So, Noel there, we call it Champion of Champions now. First prize is £1,000. Back then it was £1,300, and it's worth about £8,000 these days, which is pretty interesting. Arthur Murray had won the 1978 Waterloo for the second time, which, you know, was pretty unique. I know you can't have degradations of uniqueness, but it was, you know, didn't happen very often. Bernard Kelly had won it twice, 2 years on the bounce. Arthur Murray, I think, was the first player to win it on 2 separate occasions, you know, non-consecutively, until Brian Duncan decided to come along and win it a load of times. And Arthur won £1,250, which is again about £8,000 in today's money. Beat Flash Harry Smith from Liverpool in the final, 21-20. This was one of the controversial finals that sort of seemed to happen quite a bit back in the 70s and early 80s, and really helped get the game onto television and get the general public interested in it. Obviously in 1980 we had Vernon Lee doing his dancing, and people either loved it or hated it. And this final wasn't controversial because there were people falling out or anything, but at all but 18 down, Arthur thought that he wasn't in as he was walking across the green and tossed the mat in, and it was only when he got to the end that he realised he was in to make it 19-20, and he had to go and get the mat back and carry on, and he got up 2 ends later. I've only ever seen the last 2 ends of that final, but it must have been really what's the word I'm looking for? Must have been an amazing roller coaster of emotions. Thinking that you've lost, tossing the mat in, realising that you haven't lost, you're still in with a chance, and to get up 2 ends later, you know, the highs and lows must have been just incredible. Something worth just noting, the results are down here. Mike Leach was in the final day yet again, one of the many times he appeared in the final day, and was one of the big favourites to win. Unfortunately, he crashed out in the semi-final to Harry Smith. There was Mike Leach, a guy called Chris Ogden, who I don't know, from Manchester. Arthur Murray beat Ernie Jackson from Ormskirk. Tommy Hayes played Roy Nicholson in a quarter-final. And who else was there? Don't know. They've only put down 3 quarter-finalists, unless I'm much mistaken, and I'm not. Semi-finals. Smith beat Leach 21-8. Murray beat Roy Nicholson 21-12, I think. They haven't actually listed the results, but there you go. So yeah, about £8,000 and then below there's a details of how you can buy your tickets to get in for the following year. What page are we on here? I don't know, I've cut it off. Letters to the editor, come dancing Blackpool style. And this, at the time, there was still this big difference between BCGBA rules, well, they still had the word amateur in the title, and Blackpool rules, and most competitions were played under the Blackpool rules, which were similar to the panel. They were more the rules were looser, 2 throws of the jack, running after the balls was fine. They weren't that fussed if you didn't have your foot totally on the mat, and there was this big sort of difference between the two factions, and a guy called Mr. R. Thompson from Birmingham wrote a letter in. On Sunday the October 8th I watched the Colebrook Crown Green Classic containing a Warwick and Worcester Invitation 8 and the Crown Green Enterprises. Now the Crown Green Enterprise was a group of players. I think it was 8 players initially, then it might have gone up to 16. All the top players were in it: Duncan, Fletcher, Leach, Jackie Hunt, Roy Armson, Harry Smith, Dennis Mercer, I think, and they used to travel round and play invitation events, and there'd be, you know, people would try and qualify to hopefully play against one of these top names. Didn't last too long, I think it was only maybe 3 or 4 years, but you know, it was a thing at the time. The game was played under Blackpool rules, whatever that might mean. It seemed to consist, among other things, of delivering one's wood from somewhere near the footer, having 2 bites of the cherry when setting a mark, and doing an Indian war dance with the wood as a silent partner. Much of what I saw was contrary to the rules as laid down by BCGBA. Surely there should be loyalty from all Crown Green bowlers to one national set of rules. The suggestion put forward by Joe Owen in the same edition for a board of referees from all counties is long overdue. So there you go. Not everybody was entirely happy with the antics of top players at the time, and there was this disparity with the rules that eventually got sorted out once Jack Lee got in and the Waterloo, he changed the rules so there were British Crown Green. I think more or less everyone followed suit from then on, and when British Crown Green introduced the competition certificate, that was saying yes, we will run our competitions along with British Crown Green rules. So eventually it happened. It took a few years, but eventually we got there to a full, complete, unified set of rules. Now I'm not saying everyone plays to them, but that was eventually where we got to. Harry Rigby's column was always a good read all the way through the history of bowlers world until unfortunately he passed away. But there was an interesting point, and I never realised this was a situation. Rule 8 was altered to read: objections to a mark must be made verbally and resolved before the first ball is played. Now compare that to what it is now. You can only verbally object after the first ball has come to rest, and that rule, the rule as it was in 1978, is just wide open for all sorts of abuse and nonsense. You can just imagine, can't you, certain players, you've sent the jack out 30 yards and they've got long tapes. It's in the rules, they're allowed to do that, and then you have to wait for them to measure the jack, and then you play your ball even though it's obviously a mark. And it doesn't say whether you, in that circumstance, you could have the jack back, but you can go on forever. If you were playing somebody, you know, who you didn't get on with or whatever, and they wanted to be a bit awkward with you, I could see that happening. I can imagine the sort of, I won't name the players who might do it, but I can imagine the ones that would. So that was really interesting, and I've never played under the rules where they had the markers, I think 3 or 4 yards from each edge. I never played under those rules, and I never knew that was a rule, that you could object before the ball was played. That just seems a nonsense to me. But eventually it got changed, and for the better, I hasten to add. And to be honest with you, because it was the end of the year, there wasn't that much in the bowler's world from this month. There was lots of things in, but mainly from Yorkshire and Huddersfield, because that's where bowler's world was based at the time. What fascinates me is the number of adverts. Obviously they need adverts to help pay for the paper, because it wasn't a massive amount of money that you paid for a copy of the Bowler's World. In fact, there's not even a price on it, which is amazing. Again, unless I've cut it off. So there are lots of adverts, and the adverts were, as you would think, related to breweries, bowling greens, shore grinding engineers to get your mower serviced. But there were a couple of adverts that really made me chuckle. I will read it out. 21-0 or 0-21. Special printed motif ties to mark the above scores. Please state whether won or lost, and send £2 to Rainbow Club badges and ties. Can you imagine? You've been licked 21-0 and 4 weeks delivery. So 4 weeks later, you get presented with a tie. 0-21. Sorry. Oh dear. And then oh, that's funny. Then there was this this advert made me absolutely laughing just thinking about it. So as I say, it's full of adverts for bowling greens, for breweries, for scorecard manufacturers, for bowl stickers, anything you could think of for bowling. And then there's this. Make no mistake, fit genuine GKN driveline exchange prop shafts. Next time you need a replacement prop shaft, remember one important point. A genuine driveline exchange unit is identical to the original, which means fitting is made easy and quality is assured. You'll have more trucks on the road making money, fewer trucks in the yard losing money. Prop shaft. I'm just thinking, all I've got in my head are these crime green bowlers sat there going, my lorry needs a new prop shaft. Oh, if I carry on, I'm going to choke. So, the last article I just want to quickly mention. It's headlined, Young Players in the Spotlight. The floodlit season on Merseyside has been largely dominated by young players, in particular Chris Morrison and Jeff Dewhurst from Birkenhead. Chris achieved notoriety when he beat all the top names in the country earlier this year to win the £1,000 Whitbread Liverpool Echo Masters at the Albany Club Birkenhead. His good form continued when he won the floodlit at the King's Hotel, beating Dewhurst in the final. And Chris Morrison, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, lovely bloke, wonderful bowler, still competing on the panel 42 years later, so he obviously had a bit of talent back then, and he's still got it now, still playing at a really high standard, still one of the guys I respect, having played with him for many years. I call him the Professor, because what he doesn't know about bowls isn't worth knowing, and taught me an awful lot on the sly. He doesn't realise it, but he's passed on a lot of tips to me over the years, and he was brought up in a tough school, and he learnt a lot of tricks of the trade from Roy Armson, and Chris has passed those on. and I look forward to seeing his results on the panel. He doesn't win as many as he used to, but he still competes, still wins. And 1978 was when he first burst onto the scene. That's a long time ago. I was 5 years old back then, if that makes you feel any older, Chris, I don't know. So I'm going to leave it there, I think, for this edition of Bowler's World. The next one will be in the new year, and we'll look at a January's Bowler's World from years gone by. Let's hope I can find one that's full of positivity and something that might give us a giggle too. Prop shafts, dearie me. So thank you very much for joining me. Remember, if you've enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and I hope you'll tune in tomorrow for another AC's Talking Bowls, which apparently I do quite well. I think they said bowls anyway. So thanks for watching, guys. Stay safe, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Bye for now.